Kay from Signpost Coaching Services, and our leadership vlog today will not only improve well-being for you and those around you, it will save you potentially masses of time, and it's quite an interesting thing to explore anyway. And it's the notion of trying to increase the clarity that you have in your communications and to really challenge yourself with that question, am I being as clear as I need to be? If you ever have those moments, and I guess lots of us do, where you say to yourself, I have explained that, I thought I was really clear. I know I explained that, I don't know what's so difficult about it. And the suggestion is that, in fact, unless you're working with people who genuinely are trying to undermine what you're trying to do, and actually most people aren't doing that, unless you're working with those people, then if people are misunderstanding or confused, then we need to hold the mirror up and say, actually, it's our lack of clarity. The clarity as it leaves us may be abundantly clear in our own heads, but sometimes we don't take into account how other people receive their messages. And because we're pushed for time, we assume that we've given the message has been received, it's been interpreted in exactly the right way, the way that we intended, and therefore action would follow. And often it doesn't. And I came across something that I think might help you to reflect on that a little bit more. And it came from the introduction of in this book, Damian Hughes, How to Change Absolutely Everything. And in the introduction, he talks about how he's trying to simplify something that's incredibly complex, how he's trying to keep us motivated, engaged with his theme as he goes through the whole of his book, helping us to understand the change process. And what he's saying is that in order to make all of that detail, all of that research abundantly clear, what he has to do is be really systematic in how he delivers that message to keep you on board, to keep me on board. And he discovered a piece of research that they did at Stanford University, and I think it really does help to explain this particular concept. The idea is that students at Stanford University were divided into two groups, tappers and listeners. Now, at the moment, I'm a tapper because I am the architect of this conversation. I'm designing this conversation. You are a listener, and I hope you're getting it because, I've worked hard to try to be clear. But the research suggests that tappers were given a list of 25 songs, very well-known songs, and they tapped out those songs to fellow students. The fellow students had to accurately guess the song that was being tapped. Sounds really easy, but give it a go. Give it a go with your team and your key people that are around you, because it's not as easy as we think. Actually, by the time they'd completed the experiment, the tappers, the people who knew what the song was and had the information in their head, the tappers thought that it should be at least 50-50. At least 50% of the people they were tapping to should get the tune. The reality was that it was about 3%. Not 50%, nowhere near 50%, 3%. And the challenge is, in terms of your communication, the way that we communicate, is we are tappers. We understand what the content is. We've had many previous sub-conversations to clarify our thinking with different members of our team before we present it perhaps to a group meeting or a staff meeting, or before we present it as an idea, before we float it as a major idea. All of those previous conversations actually are helping us to become clearer and are embedding it in our head. What happens is that sometimes when we deliver the message, because we've got so much information and so much knowledge, we think it should be obvious to a receiver. We are tapping, but people are not necessarily receiving because we don't share the detailed layers of all the information and the processes that we've been through. So it's worth a thought. So what I'm going to do, just to finish, is I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge. I'm going to tap a well-known tune. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it as I tap on the table. And having tapped that well-known tune, you should be able to get it. And in this experiment, it was fascinating. The psychologists watched the students. They watched the behaviour of the tapper as they were willing people to get the answer. And they watched the complete, confused, bemused faces of those people who were listeners trying to make sense of what they were hearing. The other interesting thing about this is that if you're a listener, once you get an idea of what it is you might be listening to, you think you've got a clue, what you do is you shut your brain down to any other possibilities. So actually, if I'm tapping one thing, you might have got hold of the wrong end of the stick, and it precludes you from actually getting to the correct answer or a clear picture of what I want. It's really fascinating. So I shall leave you with this. I'm going to tap something that is a really well-known tune. Okay, so ready for the taps? Here you go. Now, obviously, because I'm a particularly adept tapper, you will have guessed that straight away. But for some people, as they started, they went down a wrong track. I think it might be Happy Birthday. Once you think it's Happy Birthday, your brain switches right onto that track, and it in effect stops you listening. Just think about your own communication. How many times do you start tapping and do people follow the wrong tune, and it precludes them from getting back on track with you? Just think about how much stress, how much anxiety, and how much wasted time that creates. If we could be clear, if we could make sure that people really do understand the layers of the concepts that we're trying to describe and to explain, maybe more people would be able to guess the song and get on track. And that's what we want. We want really clear, effective communication that helps people to perform well in a stress-free environment as possible. So I hope you give it a go. Oh, do you want me to tell you what the tune is? For those of you who didn't guess, you might have to re-listen, but if you didn't guess, it was a well-known tune. It was Baa Baa Black Sheep. Okay, so enjoy, and it's food for thought as a leader, isn't it?